are back with Charles Hood. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Drew Taylor?
I don't know. I kind of lost. I think I stumbled in from the woods or something. But you know what? I'm out of the woods and I'm back in the Ghost Protocol vibe because we are continuing our celebration right now with the writers of Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Not the only writers, but the first writers.
And I believe the only credited writers.
The only credited writers, although early trailers actually gave McQuarrie a credit.
Yes.
If you look.
But he didn't end up with a credit. I think it was only Nemec and Appelbaum that ended up with credits.
Yes. And we are so excited to get into this. And we actually have a little bonus at the end of the episode because we forgot to ask something. So we followed up over email and we will give you that information at the end of the episode.
Yeah, but before we get into this interview, though, I wanted to say another little tidbit for you.
Yeah.
There's a new, smaller version of the arcade game. You know that crazy big arcade game, like 4-person booth that you could get into?
Yeah.
There's a new, smaller version of the arcade game. Just saying. Could be a good Christmas present.
Where is it? How much is it?
I wasn't even able to look it up. Maybe we should make it a new Patreon goal. We should find out how much it is.
Yeah.
It's probably thousands of dollars is my guess, right? I don't know how much those kind of games are.
Well, the other thing is that it's not on Vudu yet, but they have retroactively done the poster for Fallout in the style of the other Mission Impossible VOD covers.
Yeah, I messaged you about that a while ago. I noticed that there's an account that also just pointed it out recently, right?
Yeah.
I saw that on social media. But yeah, they changed that a few months ago.
It's still the same on Vudu, but it's probably on other.
Yeah, I think it's on Apple in particular. If you go into iTunes or whatever, it's called Apple Movies or whatever. Now, if you look in the library, it's like a kind of a bluish.
Yeah.
MI6. They changed it. They rebranded Fallout into MI6 the way they do with all the other movies in the series.
You know, I actually think it's kind of helpful because not everyone can remember the subtitles like we can, and so many people go, which one is that? So I think it's actually pretty helpful.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
What do you think?
Yeah, I thought the look of it was good. Yeah, I'm into it. Sure, why not?
Yeah, consistent. I got some shout outs to do before we get into this episode. I know we got to go quick because this is a jam-packed episode and we have more stuff at the end. So I just want to quickly give a shout out to Jeremy Dillon and his podcast, My Favorite Album, where each week he talks to a different artist, musician, songwriter about the albums they love and how it's influenced them and their work. And he just did this amazing kind of audio documentary about the making of David Byrne's American Utopia stage show. And Charles, you and I have just been on, and we're going to be back soon.
Yes, we are.
So a lot of fun stuff there. And then I also want to thank John B., who has been there for us time and time again. So thank you guys. Without you, the show would not be possible. So should we just jump into it, Charles, and then wrap it up?
Yeah, just one little word of warning. There is a little gap in a story at one point that Josh is telling. The Zoom cut out. But all he said basically is that Cruise's mom went skydiving over the weekend. So that, just so you know, that's so you don't miss anything. We, obviously Ben Rosenblatt also told us that story about Cruise's mom going skydiving, and he brings it up as well.
So it's less a news story and more of a confirmation.
Yes, but he just kind of elaborates on it, but it cuts out a little bit. So just so you know, that's what that little glitch is in there.
Okay, we'll be back.
We should talk about this is such a big thing for us. Max, Vanessa Redgrave's character from the first movie, was a big part of your draft.
Yes.
So we gotta hear all about this, what happened, and we heard. I think Brad Bird said that it got pretty close, but Paramount just wouldn't pay her what she deserves, and so they couldn't get her. When reading your draft, I found that it wasn't even just it wasn't because now the character in the end was the fog, and it's just one scene and then a short scene with him on the phone with somebody. But Max really was in several scenes in your draft, so it was like a pretty significant change. And so I don't know, can you speak to what happened there and how that came about in the first place?
I think Max was just like a fascinating character from the first one. I love the first mission. I'm a don't make me pick between our mission and the first mission, but I love the first mission. And so Max is just such a good character. And I think that I think a lot of the initial idea was like, right, in the spy world, in the world of espionage, there are these regular players and regular contacts and regular things. And so to like all these movies later, like come back and have to dip into Max and like need a favor and like need information. It just felt kind of cool to lean into that character. The funny part is we even went so far as to when he had the hood on, we actually found the actor who had played Max's henchman in the first one. This guy who had been like plucked out of Sweden or Norway, brought to Dubai, put into a wig, like this like expensive wig that was made for him to match the look from the old thing. And then it was just like, but there's no Max. So it was just like, it was one of those, yeah, it did come that close to the Max of it all, to the Vanessa Redgrave, that we'd actually, it was that close that we didn't actually have time to even unwind that.
Wow. So that was shot first with the assumption that Vanessa Redgrave would be, okay. Wow.
But then again, it's when, as with all things that become real in Hollywood, it just became real that it wasn't going to happen. And then now what? And so, yeah, we made the shift.
Wow. Did you guys do any courting of her? Did they say, write a scene where, she, whatever? And
we did not. We left that to people who are more charming than ourselves.
More charming and more famous.
Yeah.
Wow. Of all the people to lowball, I don't think she
I know.
deserves that.
Vanessa Redgrave.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was the same exec who wanted it to be a torch pass from Tom.
Right.
Paramount.
Well, I think what we like too is that, you guys imply this kind of history between them, that they've been sort of entangled in other adventures in between movies that we never got to see. Was that also sort of a part of crafting the character and bringing her back?
Yeah, just to, again, create that idea that the Ethan Hunt missions aren't just the missions that you see in the movie, that there's this whole other world, this whole other life that's out there. So that was, to me, that's always sort of fun. Like the stuff that you didn't get a chance to see, but exists. And maybe you're like, do I get a piece more of that story one day?
Right.
I as a guy who, again, loves the Bond movies and the mission movies, I personally love those little tastes where I feel like, I can dig in and there's like a little morsel for me to hang on to and talk about and say to people, hey, did you notice that? To me, that's the fun stuff.
Well, I think Ben also brought up another tantalizing casting what if, and I wonder if you guys were involved in this at all, which was Gene Hackman as the secretary who's murdered.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We were involved in it so much as we were like, that'd be fucking awesome too.
Gene Hackman, that's cool. Yeah,
Gene Hackman,
was
Harrison
about the
Ford, and
involvement.
Tom Cruise.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
That one I don't remember, other than again thinking it would be awesome.
Yeah.
What did somebody tell you more than that? Was there more to it than that, or
was there anything else, Charles?
I don't think there was anything else other than they were just, Gene Hackman was retired by that point, so I don't know how they thought they were going to get him, but Ben Rosenblatt just said that they hoped to get Hackman into the movie. And I think he said that even storyboards or previs was done with Hackman's likeness, because I guess they really thought they would get him.
Yep.
That's great.
I remember it. I remember it vaguely, but yeah, Tom Wilkinson was so great though in that.
He was.
He was. He was really wonderful. But wait, so quickly going back to Max, I love the dialogue that you continue that great playfulness that they had between the two of them in the first movie. And I wanted to ask you, because there's one line that you had about, like Drew said, there's an implication that they've had some other adventures between the two movies. And there's one thing that says that she knows what clothing size he wears.
Right.
So is that an implication that maybe that did they consummate their working relationship?
Oh no, I remember Tom like that. He was like, I love that idea.
I love that. That's so great.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's great too, because you have there's a whole like double cross, like triple cross situation where it seems like Max is double crossing them and she's going to turn them over after helping them to get all the equipment and everything. And then, they're bugged. Their equipment's all bugged for Hendrix. But then in the end, it actually is a triple cross and she's helping Ethan get rid of Hendrix because Hendrix is bad for business. I love the whole run of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't have a question. I'm just telling you it's great.
Thank you very much.
In the alternate Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, that would have been cool. Yeah.
What else, Charles, did you want to bring up specifically?
Let's see. So Benji, the whole climax is not very different, but there's a whole element of Benji getting to wear a mask, which obviously they held off until Fallout. But at one point, I don't know if it was ever filmed, but in the draft we read that Benji does wear a mask and gets to kind of save the day in the climax.
Is that the version where like we fake his death? We think he's dead, and then it's somebody else that's dead, but then he's alive, and something.
And there's this little like you set it up earlier in the script. There's a little like a double toe tap as a signal, and then in the climax you bring back the double toe tap. Benji does that. I think it's Windstorm. Windstorm does this double toe tap when they're in kind of this like Mexican standoff situation. He does a double toe tap, and then you realize, oh, it's Benji in the Windstorm mask, and Benji's alive, and it's
You know where so much of that came from? Dre, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, again, obviously it's stuff that they do in these movies, but when we had the original launching points, we went off and worked on the first draft with JJ while Tom was off filming another movie. And when he came back and read the draft and wanted to kind of put it through a different filter, he was like, everybody should watch The Sting. Did you hear about this? Did anybody else bring this up?
Oh, wow.
It was Tom's big thing of like, let's all talk about The Sting. And we're like, okay, that'd be awesome. Let's talk about The Sting.
Love The Sting.
And we all
Great
watched
movie.
The Sting. Yeah, and there was a lot of conversations about The Sting and the long con and the thing. And again, what you read in the Benji thing was not The Sting, and it wasn't that much of a long con or a thing, but that was part of the inspiration was like, and again, it's also a signature mission, but like having that final turn at the end where the audience is really looking in one direction and then something else comes out of it. And I think we're like, what if we think that the bad guy's dead, but it's really Benji? And I just remember that was a big part of the conversation that led to that. But The Sting in general was something that was very much on Tom's mind when we were developing the script with him.
Charles, should I ask about the Windstorm mask that we haven't gotten a straight answer out of anybody for?
Yes, we should. We should bring that up.
Okay, so this is in the final movie. At the end of the sandstorm, Windstorm is sort of driving away from Cruise, and he pulls off a mask, seemingly proprietary IMF mask, and it is Hendrix that has been there the whole time.
Yes.
And we cannot figure this moment out. We've asked Bird about it, who totally dodged the question.
What did Bird say?
I can't even remember. What did he say, Charles? He was like,
I
don't
don't
know, or something. But we also need to get your Bird impression.
Josh and Andre.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, he probably asked us on the day and was just like, what is happening in this moment? And we were probably like, I don't know. Which is probably why he was like, I don't know. I'm trying to remember what led to the mask moment.
It brings up a lot of questions that we.
Why would he be pretending to be? Why would he put himself?
Yeah.
Why is he pretending to be his own henchman?
And where did he get the? And I am assuming that technology is only for the IMF. Where did he get the mask machine?
I'll ask you one other question in this moment. Why does he choose to tear it off and reveal himself?
That's another question.
So, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what is going on in this moment in the movie. Just like, I don't know what
It just looked cool. It was just...
Yeah, I don't know what Brad Bird did here, but he just... Brad Bird obviously just went off the rails in this moment with this idea of his.
It wasn't in the script. He made us put that in there. It was his choice to shoot it. It was ridiculous. We completely objected to it.
Which one of you two does a good Bird impression?
Oh, Josh.
Everybody. Okay, go ahead, Josh.
I can't do it right now. I'm on the spot.
All right. Well, hopefully it'll come up naturally sometime before the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Everybody does their own impression, and it's
It's
wonderful.
He's one of a kind.
Yes. Charles, anything else?
Well, I'm curious about. Well, actually, there was another moment that I was interested in, kind of in the same section of the movie in Dubai. In your draft, because it always strikes me as like pretty dark and bleak the way that they do this in the final movie. the guy who authenticates the codes, they kidnap his family and then they bring him up and, he's there to authenticate the codes. In your draft, they let the family go free. And Hendrix is like, oh yeah, well, he calls and releases the family and then he kills the code authenticator. But in the final movie, it's implied that he's killed the family and him. I'm just wondering what happened there. It's so dark. I feel like it's better in your draft.
Charles has been staying up late nights thinking about this poor family Russian code authenticator.
Well, it's such a fun movie. The tone of the movie is so fun, and that is so dark. It's such a weird choice that came. I don't know how that came about. That it went there. It's just different from your draft.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know if it was a choice made to just try and ground everything and sort of a look at the darkness of Hendrix at his core. It's all I can think.
Yeah, there was always this balance between wanting it to be more of a fun Mission Impossible, but also make sure that it didn't get too, it didn't go into cartoon, comic book land, whatever that stuff was. So it could have been just like reminding you of the stakes of the villain.
Right.
Well, so actually, can you talk a little bit about the tone? I mean, I know you said before that you were kind of keeping Brad Bird in mind when you were writing this, but this is, I mean, Drew and I talk about this a lot, that this movie really, we feel like, found the Ethan character more than any other ones, like really identified what is funny and like real about Ethan in those situations. And where did that come from? Bringing that tone into it, though, that's a little more lighthearted, but still grounded in the reality of the situations.
It's funny because it's like, I think Tom has such a facility as a person and really as an actor for some of those great wry looks and those moments of like carrying the team on his back. Those moments in the hotel room where it's like, we're going to have to get out there. It's like, he knows all of it. And so it's like, part of it was like looking at that and be like, can we mine some of that so that we can have some fun with Ethan, but we can also live sort of in the real skin of like, it's hard to be Ethan Hunt. Like, it's a hard day's work. It's a hard paycheck to earn. And the fact that he also loves the job, but can reflect a little bit on his own situation. It was just something that we talked about a lot.
And I think also it was because of JJ's, which I love JJ's. Like, that's one of my favorite by far. Because JJ's humanized him, like kind of treated him as like a real person for the first time in those three. It was like, okay, so now he's not a superhero. He's a real guy, which is like a kind of that set like a new baseline. So now if you're saying he's like a real guy out in these insane situations, now not just on like an emotional level with his heart and the wife and stuff, but like, let's now have him look at these crazy situations like a real guy, being like, a little bit more scared of shit, a little bit more just treating and finding it, and then looking, for the humor and all that stuff. Plus, like, I can't remember where this came in. It might have predated Bird, or it might have been something that Bird brought with him. It probably was the latter, or the latter was somebody in the room saying, this will be the mission where this shit doesn't work, where all the gadgets don't work.
Right. Yeah, that was a Birdism. Yeah.
Yeah, it was totally. And so it was like, we were already filtering some of it into the early drafts. But then when he said that, it was like, okay, again, now we know what we're doing. Like, if the gear isn't working and he's a real guy, suddenly we're into a new kind of layer here in the franchise, and we're sort of opening it up into something really fun. So I think it was a confluence of all that stuff.
Wow.
Love that.
All right, Charles, any more specifics?
Not really. I mean, there was a lot more mystery in the first half of the script. And I guess for a while they were chasing the file, but they didn't know what the file was. Can you talk about it, like balancing, the kind of mystery versus the... I
remember a funny memory of that, unless, but that was one of those great things when you're like a writer where we had explained what the file was, and it was one of those things because it was sort of a MacGuffin-y thing, and everybody was like, no matter what the answer was, everybody thought it was too confusing, or it was too obscure, it was too obvious, this and that. And then somebody in the room was like, you know what? Like, we don't have to explain what it is. We just say it's the file, because in all these things, like, everybody's just after the file, so let's just say it's the file. And we're like, okay, let's try that. Let's just call it The File. And then we're just after The File. Then we called it The File, and everyone's like, you got to know what the fucking file is. We got to explain what's really going on. We're like, okay, back to the drawing board. The bottom line is, coming up with a MacGuffin in Hollywood as a screenwriter is the hardest part of the job. The most soul-crushing part of the job, because no one's ever had. Again, that's why like Tom's thing about the nukes is genius, but all the other little details underneath it and the clue trails and all that stuff, it's no, people will waterboard those ideas to death, and then ultimately when you watch the movie, you rarely, if ever, notice or remember any of that, because you're just remembering he climbed the side of the building, or he was on the, he was on the side of the plane.
Right.
Well, can you talk about working on it during production? Ben, I think Ben told us that you guys were in like the top of this tower, the tower in Dubai, and I think was McQuarrie on the set at the same time? I mean, were there competing pages? Were you guys working together? What sort of scenario did you guys find yourselves in during the actual shooting?
We were there for the entire run of filming. We were there for Prague. We were there for Dubai. We popped into Russia. We weren't there. We were in and out in Vancouver.
Okay.
After we got through that big run of shooting like all the big set pieces, the show went to Vancouver. That's when McQuarrie came in, and then we came in, and then he came. That's sort of where there was everybody was working together. But for up until that point, it was just us on that journey. It was super fun. It was a wild, super fun ride. Yeah, but being in the building when Tom was climbing on the outside of it, and you're in Video Village, and there's Tom on the side of the building, and he comes ambling over and waving to everybody. And I remember one point, he's on the side of the building. I don't know if anybody told you this story. On the, whatever it was, 67th floor or 87th floor, whatever it was. He's out there. We're all inside.
135th floor.
135th floor. And Tom comes over, and he's like hanging on the outside of the building. He comes over to the window. He's like, hey, does anybody have like a rag and some like spray? And we're like, what? He's like, I got a footprint on the side of the window out there. I just want to clean it off. And some guy like has to strap himself in, gives Tom the rag. Tom goes back out, and we can see him on the monitor. He's the window washer. He's cleaning the window because he doesn't want the camera to get the footprints in the shot. It was unbelievable.
And all you could think about in that moment was, why aren't we rolling the film right now? Like, we should absolutely be rolling film right now. It was wild, though, because I remember Tom's mom came out. And it was probably like day 4 of 5 or 6 or day 3, wherever it was. And he was on the outside of that building, and she was sitting in Video Village. And I remember sitting next to her, and she was like, oh, when we started chatting, and here comes Tom running on the side of the building past like Video Village, and it's running back the other way, and like all hardest
thing. Poor woman having to watch yourself.
And I literally I was sitting there, and I remember I said to Josh, I was like, God, I hope, like, could you imagine, like, if he doesn't make it? I was like, we killed Tom Cruise, and his mom is here. Like,
his mom's here.
We did it. Like, and we're sitting next to his mom. Like, this is not, like, we should cancel this whole thing right now. This isn't good. It's not good for anybody.
By the way, that I believe it was in Dubai. His mother then, who was in her, I would imagine her 60s, whatever. I remember she went away for a couple of days while we were filming. She came back. We're like, well, what'd you do last while they were there? Which was like Tom Cruise's mother skydiving in Dubai.
It's a family thing.
What's better than that?
Yeah. I think Ben Rosenblatt told us about that.
There you go.
We got to sit in a crazy office in that building that was a few floors above. So somehow Josh and I got positioned in the Sheikh's private floors. He had 3 floors at the top, and Sheikh Mo. And apparently we had been given access to go, like, if we needed some space to, like, write, work on pages, do something. So we had this, like, 3-floor office. And in that office, there was the bathroom. And the bathroom, the whole thing was glass on the outside. So the bathroom, the toilet, was on a glass wall. And I remember somebody saying, that toilet is the tallest toilet in the world. That toilet is at like the 147 story mark. And it was like one of those things where it was like, I guess you don't need shades on the windows here because, I mean, you're on the 100 and there's nothing around you but sky. But it was like this glassed-in toilet. Very strange. But
So you were taking your constitutional and looking straight down.
Exactly.
Straight down what felt like
Wow.
8,000 feet, and thinking, this will probably be the only time in the world that I will be around the tallest toilet in the world. So why not?
Now there's even a taller toilet, probably.
I'm
somewhere.
sure there is.
There you
You
go.
know.
Yeah.
You can only hold the record for a little while before someone comes along and beats you.
Right.
Do you guys write together in the same room, or do you write pages and send them back and forth, or what's your process like? Just curious.
Until there was a global pandemic, we
Yeah.
for years we did and have, and we've been like on separate continents now. But for the longest time, that's definitely how we would do it in one way or another, for sure.
In the same room together?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sit, get in the same room and grind it out.
You know, that's how we've recorded so many of these wonderful podcasts in the room together. So now, you know, we're all dealing with the pandemic in our own.
There you go.
We have a couple of big questions that we ask everybody.
Oh boy.
So I hope you guys are ready. You said you wouldn't do this, but I hope you will. Rank the Mission Impossible movies. Your personal preference. Josh is thinking. Andre is thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, I got mine.
Okay, go ahead, Josh.
Number one for me is Fallout.
Okay.
Controversial, I know.
I don't think so. I mean, okay,
number
go
one
ahead.
is Fallout. Number two is JJ's. Three would be ours.
Okay.
Four would be the first one.
Okay.
Five would be. Are there too many suddenly? Five would be Rogue Nation, and six would be John Woo.
Wow.
You hate my list.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I feel like I need to write that down to try and understand. I'll put it to
It
you this way.
wasn't interesting. I mean, I feel good about my list. I'm confident.
The Rogue Nation really did sort of try to carry forward the spirit of Ghost Protocol. And I think McQuarrie has even admitted as much, that it was sort of a continuation in tone somewhat, and
It's a great movie. I said Fallout was the number one.
I know. He's not gonna yell at you. You know.
I don't know why
Look, we love all six of the movies too.
Let me put it this way. Well, I'm not going to say anything. Yes, it's great. They're all. I love all of them. The only one that the one on the bottom is the only one that wasn't for me. But all the others are varying degrees of wonderful.
It's kind of universally people find, I would imagine, that the John Woo one tends to be at the bottom of people's list.
That would
Not
be the biggest
everybody's.
consensus, but not everybody's.
No, not everybody.
There's some people it was like right, and that was like a massive hit at the time, like a massive hit at the time. Obviously,
I think even adjusted for inflation, it's still the most successful one.
Crazy.
Interesting.
Crazy.
Well, Andre's doing a great job of avoiding the
Avoiding-
question.
Yeah, but I'm shitting on my list. No, I'm just
No, I love your list.
No, we're always just interested in terms of why people rank them the way they do.
I could say very quick while he's thinking. To me, Fallout. To me, that was the one that felt like the accumulation of all the best ideas kind of mixed into one movie. It was an amalgamation in the best way. Like the personal stuff worked, the fun was there, but the intensity level was like in a pitch, and that reminded me of the first one in a great way. And I really did like. I thought JJ's to me had the best villain in Philip Seymour. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman. I love personalizing it. Ours just for the fun of it. And anyway, but yeah, but
You guys have to take a lot of credit for the characterization of Ethan that came after, and I really think Fallout is a clear continuation of that character, the guy that fucks up and keeps on going and tries his best, and it's just it's an endearing quality. And I know that it was something that was important to you guys. It was something that was important to Bird, and we love your Ethan. So yeah.
that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, this was the movie that, our podcast is called Light the Fuse because of that line in that movie. We saw that movie at the Lincoln Square IMAX.
Oh, right on.
We saw it there too.
On opening day, and we were sitting next to each other, and we both just like stood up and hollered, and we were just so excited when that moment happened. And that's like when our obsession with this franchise started, with that moment.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And by the way, we took our friends and family to that exact theater on opening day. I wonder if we were all in the theater together.
Oh, we might have been at the same screening. We were at the afternoon show.
Yeah, I think we like the one that ended at like 7 or something like that. Yep. Like it started at 3, and
I think because then we went over to the Lincoln Center, and Brad Bird was doing a Q&A afterwards, right? Was that the same day?
Yeah, it was a different thing, but he told us to come over. So yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's great. We immediately went to some type of pub or
a bar, right?
Yeah. All right, I'll give you my numbers. Number 1 is still my favorite one, all things considered.
That's what we got, number 1 too.
It's not self-aggrandizing. I like number 4. Then I like number 3. Then I like Fallout, then Rogue Nation, then 2.
Yep, that might do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
And maybe it's there is a possibility that my list lingers in the older movies because I just remember spending so much time before we got the job actually watching and rewatching those movies and being such a fan of those movies. And again, just in the love of espionage, but one to me is such a delicious Byzantine espionage story. It almost lives in that Le Carré kind of like, what's happening? Where you have to pay attention. And come on, the scene in the restaurant in Prague with the gum is so good. It's such a good, the angles are so Dutch. It's so sinister. But anyway, that's my list.
Love it.
Well, I know we're running low on time, but this is another very important question. We always ask people to rank their favorite Tom Cruise hairstyles. And you guys have the distinction of the long locks, which, speak to his time in prison, I think. Also carrying over from 2. But, I mean, where do you guys fall? Are you a long hair guy? Are you a short hair, Ethan? What do you think?
Short.
Short? Yeah.
Our movie would have been higher on the list if he had the short hair.
I'll go with the short hair, too.
Yeah.
I think he's he's badass with both, but I'm a short hair.
Yeah.
So you like the hair in the first movie then?
I love it. The only 2 it's long is ours in number 2, right?
Yeah.
All the others
2
is pretty short.
Really long. Yeah. Yours is nice and contoured.
Ours is like a nice middle ground. A nice middle ground. Yeah, but definitely short.
Yes. Well, thank you both for coming on and accepting this mission. We need to remind everyone to watch Cowboy Bebop, which is out next week, or
tonight.
It will be out by the time this episode comes out.
Tonight at midnight.
Tonight at midnight. Oh wow. Okay, great.
It hits the streamer at midnight.
And you are still working on it, I can see.
It feels that way. It's funny, when we were first working this job, we talked to a screenwriter friend of ours when we were deep into drafts, and we were traveling with the movie and deep into more drafts. And he said something great, which was, we were like, God damn, like, when are we going to be done writing this movie? And he was like, when the DVD comes out. And it's so true. You just never seem to be done writing ever. So, but yes, still grinding. But please watch. It's fun. Cowboy Bebop's a lot of fun.
It is very fun. If you want to see what a space casino looks like, you will get that and much more. But thank you guys both so much. It was such a treat to get to go through the process sort of with you guys and to go through this draft and talk about all the changes. It was a huge thrill. So thank you both so much.
Awesome.
Right on. Thanks you
guys.
And we're back. Wow, those guys, great.
Yeah.
Great.
And as you said at the beginning, before we get into anything that we talked about, we did forget to ask them about Julia and the evolution of her character being dead. And then late in production, the surprise was added that she's actually alive and Ethan faked her death, as we talked about with Christopher McQuarrie in our very first interview with him a few years ago. So anyway, we followed up and sent them an email and asked them about it. And should I read what Josh told us?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, Josh says, In terms of Julia, it's a funny thing. Revealing she was alive at the end of the film was one of the earliest pitches Dre and I had. You would realize that her death had been a cover-up, and Ethan's real mission the entire time was about getting back to and reuniting with his wife. And in the final frames, they would reunite and it would be all emotional, etc. So it was a different approach with the same underlying reveal. Our pitch never gained much traction, perhaps because at that point we were still working on some of the bigger moves in the meat of the film. And yeah, it was much later in the process when Chris pitched it again that the idea took root. Chris being McQuarrie. So happy that he did, because it gave the story such emotional resonance, and the version that ended up in the cut, where Julia was alive but Ethan couldn't reunite with her, was so heartbreaking and great. So that's interesting that there could have been a version where it was actually all done so that Ethan could end up with her.
Yes, that is interesting that was sort of like, yeah, the way they are phrasing it, it was sort of like that was the big sort of mission at the end, was to get back together with her.
Yeah, like it was all done to make it possible so they could be together. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
I'm glad that we followed up with that question, because we realized afterwards, we're like, how did we not ask them this?
Yeah, what Charles is referring to is that she was very much dead in their draft, the draft that we read, which we, as we said, was at least 10 drafts in.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, we were just curious about what that change was like. So
right, yeah.
We thank them both for responding to our email and for being so generous with their time. Obviously, you can watch Cowboy Bebop right now on Netflix, and judging by Josh calling us from London, a second season is underway right now. So
is that what that means, you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, please support them. They were awesome and so wonderful. And we hope to talk to them again.
Yeah. There was so much good stuff. I mean, like just talking about Max and the use of Max in their draft. And it's such a fascinating what if. And I just love the implication that in their script that Ethan and Max literally got in bed with each other.
Yeah, that was great.
Because they kind of gear up for I think like instead of going to the fog, the fog gives them all these supplies and helps them and gives them a tip or whatever. They go to the Max, and Max gives them all this stuff, and part of that is like he needs a suit for the event or whatever, and Max is like, oh, are your measurements still blah blah blah, and she like rattles off exactly what his measurements are, implying that it's done in a very like cheeky kind of flirtatious way.
Right. She knows. She's seen his seen his clothes off, and she has looked at the tags, and she knows.
They've reenacted scenes from Color of Night.
Right. That's for the director's cut. Yeah, I mean, the Max of it all is just so fascinating, and how they couldn't land that is just infuriating. Yeah. But I think maybe this is a good time to announce who we got coming up on the show, Charles.
Is it?
Not Max.
No, that's true. But we should mention that we did talk to, I'm going to butcher his name, but the actor's name is it Ilya Volok?
Volok, yep.
He was the actor who portrayed the Fog, and we had him on the show. We talked to him, and so we're going to have his episode will be after the new year as we continue our Ghost Protocol madness. It will never stop. Just buckle up and get ready, because it's coming. There's more coming.
He was super fun, and
yeah.
We got more stuff. God,
I know.
We got some good eps coming up, Charles.
Well, and it's still, I'm like, there's stuff in this episode I still wanted to, like, just like Cruise making everyone watch The Sting. I love that he had that movie in mind while making Ghost Protocol. I think of all the Mission movies, that makes sense the most, the tone of it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, and I love that everyone talks about that toilet that's up against the glass at the top of the tallest toilet in the world. We
are not above toilet humor here on LightTheFuse.
That's at least the second person who's talked to us about the tallest toilet in the world.
Yes.
But of course, sign up for our Patreon. We've got Patreon episodes celebrating the 20th anniversary of Vanilla Sky and the 25th anniversary of Jerry Maguire coming up. We've got all kinds of great stuff. We do bonus episodes every week. Any news that comes up related to MI7, we jump on it, and we deliver every week bonus episodes. So please sign up at the bonus content level at patreon.com/lightthefuse, and also buy a shirt or a magnet or a pin or a mask from our TeePublic store, which is linked from our website, lightthefusepodcast.com, in the merch section. Also check out the episode guide and look at all the show notes for all of our episodes. That stuff's great. I want to give a special thank you to Sonia Miranda this week. So thank you to Sonia for making this episode possible. And what else, Drew?
Just like, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. And be sure to follow us on social media at LightTheFuse-Pod. And always feel free to reach out if you have ideas for episodes or people you want us to talk to. I think Charles and I stumbled across a cool idea for a show, just making light of the fact that so many sitcoms have referenced Ghost Protocol.
Yes.
I mean, it is staggering. And I think it is partially how funny the name is. Like, Ghost Protocol is so singular. There is nothing else in the whole world called Ghost Protocol.
You can't put those. You don't put those words together in any other context.
No. There's video games called Fallout. I'm sure there's other things called Rogue Nation is fairly pliable, but
it's possible Rogue Nation might not have anything else either.
But it is a phrase that is used in real life geopolitical conversation. Right. Yes.
And Ghost Protocol is not something anybody.
Yeah, you don't read
says.
about Ghost Protocol in the New York Times or anything. So that could be fun. But anyway, please contact us. And we've got such great things planned for 2022. We hope we can see people again this year more often. And I think that's it, right?
Yeah, and also, of course, credit our music to Kevin Blumenfeld. Hopefully he's not in any legal hot water currently over his legally dissimilar music. In quotes, legally dissimilar.
Yeah, I hope he's not, Charles, but I'm winking right now because I hope he is.
Yeah. And then, of course, the episode is edited and mixed by Luke Burson. So thank you to Luke as well. And I think that's about it. I think we'll be back with more, of course, every Friday.
All right.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. Before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcast@gmail.com. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.